what's good, everybody? Joey J. Ping here, checking your live on respectmyregion.com. We're here today on episode 1 of the King Solomon Nutrients podcast. Let's go. We got Damian Solomon over here to my left. We got Anthony down there in the corner, and we got Erik right here below me, right next to that sick Batman poster canvas you guys got right there. That's dope. Fellas, you guys are Hamilton Farms. We got King Solomon Nutrients. It's going to be our great episode today. Welcome. How are all of you guys doing? What's going down?
Doing great.
Oh, we're doing great, man. It's a beautiful Tuesday.
It's a Tuesday. You know what that means? I'm in LA, baby. It's Taco Tuesday. I'm going to get dollar tacos later. I cannot wait. Now, today's episode's not about me, and respectfully, it's not as much about King Solomon Nutrients as one might think. Today is going to be a dedicated episode about maximizing cannabis cultivation, maximizing growth opportunities, and we're going to be showcasing Hamilton Farms. Erik, we've got you here. We've got the squad. We've got the fam, man. It's going to be great. It's going to be a super dope conversation. Thank you guys for being here. Damian, King Solomon Nutrients, you guys are one of the premier cannabis nutrient products, one of the, your consulting, the services, the expertise that you bring to the table. Ultimately, it just helps people grow great cannabis. And so, fellas, New Jersey, what's going on? How we looking? You just mentioned it's not snowing down there in South Jersey. Where are you guys at in the world? What's going on at Hamilton Farms, fellas?
Well, we're down in Millville, New Jersey, which is way south. Let's say okay. South Jersey, they're thinking like Philadelphia. We're like 45 minutes south of that. So wow. we're way down here. But no, weather's nice. The sun is always shining in our facility, so weather's great. Typically 70 to 82 degrees, and parameters are where we want them. So
wow,
things are nice around here.
You guys don't have to deal with the dry temperatures of the desert. You don't have to deal with the moisture level of like Seattle and the rain and this ocean. You guys, Florida's its own swamp culture.
Right.
Well, describe what is the environment like for cultivating cannabis there in South Jersey? Because I've only been to Atlantic City, I've only been up to Plainfield, and I've only been to the Philadelphia airport and driven through the middle of the state. So I've never been south. What is it like to grow cannabis down there in that region? Because regions and the geography and the weather in all these places, it plays a really super crucial role into cannabis cultivation a lot of the time.
Erik's from here. I want to let him share his thoughts.
Erik, what's going on? What's it like down there, man?
So I grew up in North Jersey, northwestern New Jersey specifically. It's more corn and cow country. So a lot of farmland. Southern New Jersey has a lot more farmland than we did up there. Primary crops are going to be blueberries down here. You have the cranberry bogs, but a big agricultural side of the state.
Wow. I was told, I believe recently, that cranberries are a huge part of your guys' economy there in Jersey. Is that a thing?
Yes. So they actually have a road that you can drive through past all the cranberry bogs, and that's where all of Ocean Spray farms their cranberries.
That's the guy that went viral on the TikTok, right? With the listening to that Fleetwood Mac song, right? Yeah, put New Jersey on the map, baby. That cranberries came from Jersey. Let's go. How cool is that? Now, I want to circle this back. I want to tie this in because, Damian, you have a really unique experience and expertise when it comes to, we'll call it agriculture and specifically plant nutrition, right? Can you tell me a little bit about how your experience ties in with one, just general agriculture and high-level cultivation of just goods in that level, and how does that play into these different clients? Does it have impact on the clients across the country that you work with, like Hamilton Farms? Because these guys are in an agricultural corridor, basically, right? They're in a major area for their region. What is your thought process in how that all connects?
Yeah, with my background being in controlled environment agriculture and commercial hydroponics, we find that we're able to, at King Solomon, we're able to help guide some customers into better practices, right? And part of that is looking at ways that they can be more efficient, ways that they can optimize their grow and optimize their results and ensure that that the final results are going to meet the market's needs, right? And yep. So being able to just use my background in agriculture and hydroponics to just ensure that they're hitting on all the marks is going to be important, because Hamilton Farms and all my other customers, their success is going to be my success. And so me being a cannabis smoker as well, and it's always good to be able to taste the fruits of their labor and to really understand the products in that market. And it's fun to sit down and talk with the growers at a technical level, to kind of geek out. We're all plant geeks. We all love the plant. So being able to find little tips and tricks on just how to push the plant further, whether that be innovation, whether it be new methodologies, new products, that's what we're all about. We want to be a true partner to all of our customers' success.
I think that being a true partner and helping them achieve their greatest version of success, there's data and science that goes into that. You do very well with the FaceTime. I see you going around to all these places, moving and shaking. But more importantly, the market, how it reacts to the product, right? Because we can do all this stuff to put great product into it. The guys can do great work to cultivate it and grow it. Anybody can fuck up the cure, right? That's what we've understood. That's one of the most important parts in the post process, right? Is that the drying and the cure. But it's what these stores and what the customers have to say that really validates the quality of the product a lot of the time. Because we can think that the music's great, but if the world doesn't like it, the world don't like it, right? And so I want to co-sign you guys based on an actual experience. I'm super excited to have you guys on. And my homies co-signed your guys' quality as well. Big shout out to the homies, Tom and Ed over at Fire and Oak, right? Up there in Jersey. I forget which name of the city that they're in, but those guys in that old little town that we were in, they were really hyped on your guys' brand at their shop, describing it as one of the best in the state. And this was when we were there, 6 months ago at this point, right? And so to think about how you guys, where you've come, how you got to that point, where you're at today, what is your guys' honest opinion about where your flower's at today? What is your honest thoughts about your quality? Because every fisherman says they catch the biggest fish. Every grower loves to say that, man, I'm pretty proud of my product. I'm not going to put anybody else down, but we're pretty proud of ours. So could you guys describe your guys' flower from maybe a more of like a meticulous, not just it's the biggest fish with the most terps kind of combo?
I'd like to think that Erik and I are pretty particular about our processes and our product. And although it's a common thing in the industry to be kind of overly confident on your process, we're constantly nitpicking and improving.
Mm-hmm.
We both have a mindset of continual improvement, so there's no finish line for perfection, right? That's what makes us, I think, so driven to continue this pathway.
Mm-hmm.
So at this point, I think that we've come a long way in our first year, from our very first crop to we just cut down harvest 10 recently and harvest 11 during this week. So we got 11 crops down in a 12-month period, which was super exciting. The quality has only been getting better. With working with Solomon and improving some of our processes, we've been able to increase yields, increase our cannabinoid profiles, increase our terpene profiles. But realistically, I think we still have room for improvement. We're growing in a very craft style. Meaning we're putting a lot of different cultivars into a single room, sometimes up to 16 in a room, and really trying to dial in each cultivar specifically. It's a daunting task to have that many different data sets to collect. So we're going through a process of selections and picking which cultivars we think are worth replicating and kind of going from there. But we still have room to improve, but I think that we've already improved a lot in our first year.
When you guys make these changes, we'll call them these improvements, right? It's an optimization process. You're talking about data sets and individual strain, like attention and care. And again, data for each of these plants in the room kind of thing, or each table, or however it's organized, right? How did you guys, like, what from your backgrounds, like for each of you guys, what was your backgrounds that went into you guys getting into the positions that you're in and having this understanding of, okay, we've got to continue improving. We need to use the technology. We need to have this kind of attention and change some of these processes. What was your guys' backgrounds before this, and how did that impact your mindset for this continual optimization growth process you have?
Erik and I have very similar but also different backgrounds. Let me start my side.
Let's go Erik first.
Yeah, go Erik first.
So I started out being a legacy grower back in the day of 2009. Hustled out to Colorado for the green rush.
Nice.
Was out there for a few years. Actually had like my own land for medical marijuana farm for a little bit. But basically when I went out there, I was shopping growers, right? To teach. So like contact different growers. Let me see your weed. Check out the weed. If the weed's good enough, hey, do you want to teach me? And not many people are very open to letting their trade secrets out. So I basically offered to work for free for the first 6 months just to learn.
Yeah.
But learning from that guy was great. He had his set, dialed in approach to how you grow cannabis. However, first thing that went off in my mind for a bell was this can't be the only way, right? There's got to be something that you can always improve upon. And this is going back to the HPS air-cooled light days with the single screw-ins.
Yep.
This yet. And at
the
the
process has changed so much over time, and technology innovations as well.
Oh yeah.
And so back then, LEDs were just starting to kind of come out on the market. And to me, it made sense. But all of the people that had taught me were like, no,
Nah.
HPS.
Not powerful enough, right? That was what they would say at the beginning.
They were right early on, like the tech just wasn't there yet, but it was almost like they were even unwilling to utilize the technology of LEDs because it was so new to them and they didn't want to change up what they had as their tried and true sauce for their project.
I mean, these harvests are so valuable, whether it was legacy and you were trapping, right? Or you were surviving on it, not just to sell it however, whatever, right? Or now today with these massive buildings and the licenses and the 50,000 cameras around the facility, it's not an expensive, it's not an affordable operation, generally speaking. Like this weed is expensive or should be because of how much goes into it, right?
Yeah, a lot of input cost. New Jersey, very large red tape state. It takes a lot of regulation to get everything done. So just because you get a conditional license here does not mean you are technically going to ever go live because anybody can pull a conditional, but it's getting it to the finish line of actually finishing that process out and, getting to the end line.
That's incredible. So you went to Colorado, you got your education. Did you get any quote unquote, I would call that formal schooling in terms of physically working on the farm? They say experience or college, right? Or some combination of both is how you get the higher jobs, right? Over time. So you did the experience. Did you have some form of formal schooling that applied to like this crazy cultivation, operation that you guys have? Because that's a thing now across a bunch of colleges, right?
So here in New Jersey, they're actually offering it at a couple of universities now, like Stockton undergraduate. However, when I was in school, none of that was options. So I literally have a finance degree.
Nice. Okay.
But I do work in finance.
No, but it's a balance. So I always attribute university and college experience when it doesn't necessarily apply. It's about the accountability element. It's about having gone through something. Not everybody values that because you could go through whatever it is thing. But having been through it myself and attended multiple universities, I find that students or former students definitely have a different level of accountability than most of the general population for people that I've met. And so I find that the combination of formal and informal, quote unquote, is a really great situation for somebody to be able to run a business and take it more serious. It's not just somebody that's just legacy, so to speak. And I want to encourage that message because I believe in education. I rock with that. Now, Anthony, your background, again, similar question. How did you get into where you're at? And I imagine if it's similar, some combination of legacy and working in the space.
So I found myself in Colorado in early 2000s, about 2004. I moved there. In 2005, I got my first medical card and was involved in the medical scene there very quickly. And by the end of that year, I had found a partner to grow with. And this was at the early days of caregiver where you could have a medical license, grow out of your house and sell to a dispensary. So
Wow.
very, very, mom and pop style.
Historic. What a historic era.
It was the beginning of everything. There was no
It
big
was the start. Yeah.
Yeah. So I kind of was there for, I would say, like the golden era of what like the medical scene was.
Yeah.
That quickly obviously changed. They started regulating the big facilities. I was given the choice to go work minimum wage for a cannabis company, or I could expand in the legacy market, and I chose the legacy side. I pushed that for a number of years until 2017. I got in trouble, got my door kicked down, and charged with 4 felonies and 12 misdemeanors. I was growing out of many houses, doing it at a decently large scale, so I was definitely not just your home grower who was being messed with by the police. I was doing very large scale black market production. But it was all passion, right? I was there.
That does it for me, Anthony. I love it and I appreciate it. We all have different paths.
Exactly, and I have no shame, right? Like I went down that pathway because I had passion in it. So I got in trouble. It took me through a 4-year pretrial process that ended up with 1 felony. Everything else got dropped. I got probation and a fine. It was a very mild thing when it all came down to it.
So much drama for one thing, huh?
It was a very life-changing, scary experience. But right at the end of that experience is when I connected with the owners of Hamilton Farms, Rahul and Kunal, 2 guys who were local New Jersey, born and raised, who had applied for their conditional license at the very beginning of approvals. And they were in the first 10 applicants to get approved. Their next step was to find a grower, and through just some serendipitous miracle, Kunal's wife's cousin is a friend of mine and just connected us on a conversation. At the time I had stepped away from cannabis, was running a construction company, was trying to play the straight and narrow and learn my lessons from being a criminal. And I was doing decently well with that, but cannabis came back into my life as a real opportunity to be a part of this project. I helped design it with our contractors. And then I was first one on site to help set everything up. So this for me was a life-altering journey to go from the illegal side to the trouble and moving out to New Jersey and starting from scratch again. So I've been here for 1.5 years now, and it's been an awesome journey so far. But this is, to clarify, my first legal cannabis job.
Wow. And you know what? And they say that the legacy growing in cannabis, that way in the houses and the smaller and that way, they say sometimes that it doesn't translate to commercial, and yet here you guys are, the defining representation of what that can look like successfully in today's day. And so very inspiring. I love that, man. Big shout out to Damian Son. Big shout out to King Solomon Nutrients, man, for being able to share these stories, for providing us the platform today. Make sure you all tap in. That's a huge, powerful statement homie just made. You think about what they both have been through for work. You guys moved away from wherever y'all were from to go to Colorado to do something you're passionate about, to do it either and not get in trouble for time as an investment, to do it over time and grow it to the size you did it for and get in trouble is another version of it. It's sacrifice. It's real life. We're humans first. And I rock with the effort y'all have been. Now, let's bring it back full circle to where we're at today, guys. Hamilton Farms. Okay, so South Jersey, agriculture is out there. We talked a little bit about the climate. We talked a little about this. Let's dive into some of the nitty gritty in the facility. Indoor, correct? Right? We're talking indoor. Yep. Okay, cool. What are we looking at? Maybe for the building square footage. What's the canopy size? Hit me with some of the usual numbers people like to hear in terms of what applies to the facility.
We're in a larger building, but we built out 13,000 square feet of finished space.
Okay.
Inside of that, we have 2 flower rooms that are 1,750 square feet of canopy each. So we're running right now 3,500 square feet of flowering canopy between 2 rooms, and it's on a double tier. So we're a 2-tier system, all LED lights, full fertigation control. So we have a head house that is running the King Solomon program, feeding all the plants up to 12 times a day, depending on where we're at in our crop steering program. And what else you got?
I'm just sharing your guys' little Instagram thing here right now so people can kind of look around while you're talking.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, here we go.
We're a small company. Even those reels right there, I made those myself. We just recently, hired our first bit of marketing staff and sales staff. We went through our first year with a bare bones skeleton crew here. Erik was taking deliveries. I was doing pop-ups. We just kind of all share responsibilities to get everything started here,
Yeah. I love that, man. When you're building out a brand or when you get these kinds of opportunities, it takes a certain kind of hustle and commitment where we have to do some things that maybe are a little bit out of our comfort zone. I mean,
Exactly.
as you said, like Erik was talking about. Erik, you got a finance degree, and yet you also became a professional cannabis cultivator by going and doing another round of education, right? Another investment of time and learning and energy, probably lifting a bunch of heavy shit and carrying it around and stuff. Like it's not easy to do that stuff, right? And so it's like I can only imagine how much has you guys have put into now that you have the legal situation there in Jersey, because retail is not trapping. It's not the same. It's legal trapping with like 57,000 other little requests, complaints, events, consumers, marketing, Instagram reels. I would imagine, Anthony, you probably weren't posting Instagram reels saying, hey, look at me, I'm at the house over here in this corner neighborhood. If you want weed, come here. Like that's probably wasn't happening at that time, right?
I'm still getting used to even talking about this stuff in public. It's a new experience for me.
So
No
it's just like
pictures.
a lot more work goes into once you have to cultivate it to then now it's a product, and products have to be sold. There's a retail environment, right? Let's talk a little bit about some of the struggles, some of the trials, tribulations that you guys have had to overcome there. Let's do cultivation first, then we'll talk about retail second. What are some of those challenges that you've really overcome, operating that space indoor in that region, whether it's, again, environmental or maybe it's mold or mildew or pests, at the beginning? What are just some of these things that you've had to deal with over time, and how did you overcome or solve some of these problems?
So I would say biggest adjustment right off the bat is this was both our first times growing in dual tier.
Mm-hmm. Oh, so the stacks.
Yep. So usually what happens in those types of systems is you're going to get a little bit different microclimates.
Okay.
So you either get better airflow up top with less down below. So you're going to have a difference in VPD from your lower rack to your upper rack.
Mm-hmm.
So the other part with that, with the 2-tier, is height restrictions. So I can't just grow a 7-foot tall plant because we only have 5.5 feet in between racks. So biggest, I think, issue we had early on was vegging our plants too much and then putting them into flower, and they were already massive and just shot right up into the lights. So we've been having to dial back. We've been cutting. We're down to 11 to 12 days off of our veg cycle now. The plants are still coming in, still performing well.
Wow.
Little tweaks like that. So we have to bring in smaller plants because, and like as you're saying, there's multiple changes we've made. So we actually switched over to Rio Coco recently, combined with the King Solomon nutrients. So we've actually been able to use less media overall for our pots. And that was actually a suggestion from Damian. We're going to even try going a little bit lower to see if we can't steer the plants out a little easier with less media.
Interesting.
That's actually the big change. Sorry to interrupt, but we like the crop steering.
I was going to ask, tell me more about the crop steering. This is perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's the big change. So in the beginning, we didn't have any substrate sensors. So we were just feeding off of traditional feed schedules, picking a number, a volumetric feed number, analyzing our runoff, trying to make some generic adjustments based on what we were seeing. But without the sensors, it's very old school, we'll say.
Mm-hmm.
We about 6 months ago, something like that, we made the purchase to go with Arroyo sensors, which give us a data stream of our volumetric water content, our electrical conductivity. They now have adaptations for the dryback calculator and transpiration they're adding in. So giving us a lot of data points as far as environmentals and our feed in the room, so we can make actual real-time adjustments to the feed schedule. That was a huge difference in our production.
Yeah, once you get those unique data points for each of those important little indicators, right? Now you can start to, as you said, steer it different things, a percentage or points or however that looks.
Just simply enough, say we have two different genetics and, one is holding saturation for longer. We can see by the sensors that one genetic can get watered less, the other one will take more water, and now we can optimize the feed schedule for more genetics.
That's so cool. Now, okay, so Damian, I want to go back to you because you're the crop steering, indoor growing of plants expert guy. Sorry, that was a terrible scientific remix of the title and specialties you had earlier. But Damian, those data points, those I think he mentioned 4, maybe 5 of them. Can you tell me why those are important in terms of cultivating great cannabis?
Yeah, I mean, the whole premise of crop steering is to be able to apply a controlled stress onto the plant, right? So the cannabis is a flowering plant, and its natural life cycle is to flower, set seed, and then die off before winter comes. So what the grower has the ability to do is to apply some of these micro stresses throughout the life cycle, and therefore you can control the way that the plant where the plant puts its energy, right? So you have this thing called vegetative growth patterns and generative growth patterns. So vegetative is just like it sounds. You're going to be focused on growing the vegetative parts, and that's usually in the propagation and vegetation side of things. You want to physically grow the plant to a certain size. You want to work on building leaf surface area, building stems, get your side lateral development done really well, and building roots. And then as you go into the bloom and the flower phase, then you want to shift that energy over from building roots and stems and leaves into putting that energy into the flower, because that's the end goal, right? We want to have a nice, high quality flower. And so therefore you want the plant to put that energy into the flower. And so crop steering and irrigation strategies are an important tool that the grower can use to help ensure that the plant's getting the energy that it needs in the parts of the plant that it needs it. And, I know we're going to talk about genetics in a little bit, but, I want to give the guys there at Hamilton Farms a shout out because they're constantly pushing the envelope on what can be done. And you see that in their cannabinoid and their terpene levels, right? I mean, their terpenes average over 5%, which is incredible. And their THC numbers are upwards of high 20s, low 30s on a consistent basis. And they're just now, with the data and technology they have in play, they're just now starting to dial in those strains. So for me, it's going to be very interesting to see where they go in the next 6 months once they further optimize. And then they're able to now, with that data and making those decisions based on data, right? And then you can go and say, okay, now we're going to group all of our strain groups and that grow in a similar way per each room, and then further dial that in. So now you're being more productive. You're ensuring that you have high quality, and that's what the market's going to want, because the market wants a consistent experience every time that your customer smokes a joint. That experience that your customer has should be the same each and every time, and that's what's going to be the magic sauce to ensuring that long-term success.
It's tough out there, man. This and we talk about some of the key elements of what makes a good product: terpenes, flavor, right? Freshness. I'll call it water activity, moisture levels, things like that. Like that freshness of it is this balance. I don't want it to be too fresh, but I also want it to be just right. I've never bought a shoe that's not done. It's always laced up and ready to go out the store. So it's this weird balance of what's done and good and high quality isn't the same for everybody. And I think it's understanding some base layers. Let's talk about this, fellas. What do you guys define as high quality cannabis? What checks the boxes for you to be able to say this is high quality, this is premium, we do the really great indoor cannabis work, right? Help me understand that from a description standpoint, because I know what it means for me. I know what I look for with my genetics and my strains. What does that mean for you guys?
I think you can produce high quality cannabis in many grow techniques. You can do it in soilless media. You can do it living soil. Environmentals and genetics are your biggest key factors to play in that side of the equation.
Okay.
But to me, what really equates to high quality cannabis is how it's finished, how it's trimmed, how it's cured, how it's stored. You can take obviously the best result from a grow production and just butcher it through the end process. So, to me, it's about the full spectrum of starting with a high quality genetic, taking it through a diligent grow process, harvesting, making sure that you stay the water activity, like you said. In this state, we have to keep in a certain range, and it's a pretty tight range. So to finish product in that is almost the artistic side of it, of understanding what you're looking for to get it into the container in time, so that you're not losing too much moisture. And then if it's not trimmed well and packaged in a container that's going to keep it sealed, that is also going to ruin the quality. So to me, it's a full spectrum process of start to finish to make sure you're at the high quality level.
That's huge. Now let's transition a little bit into the genetics convo. I think this is a good transition point for us to talk a little bit about, how the role that genetics plays in this high quality product ecosystem. You've got to have strong genetics that are stable, that are clean, right? That allow you to create these consistencies to have a great experience that Damian's talking about, right? And so, what are some of the genetics that you guys feel, or maybe what are some of the genetic families that you guys feel play a role into that? And then which of those what strains, do you guys have that really kind of emulate that?
This is our genetic guy right here.
So
Let's go.
From the strain list, I think they start to fall into different categories nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
You have like your 1990s, say late hybridization. You have the early 2000s where they just started crossing basically everything together with similar parental types.
Everything's a hybrid phase?
Yeah, so we do focus on, like, we have a Panama Red on site, like an actual true sativa, like one of the most sativa looking plants I've ever seen grown. We do have a Jamaican lamb spread.
Ooh.
We do have a train wreck. So we are focusing on some of the more like nostalgic strains.
Yeah. Those are great.
But then as we're doing that, we're also offering, new strains to the market. Like, for example, one of the most recent ones is a Gary Payton Greasy Runs cross. And
Gotta have a Gary Payton almost.
that thing just slaps. It just does. And so, trying to provide some of the older, more medicinal genetics, like we've noticed with the Panama Red, the Jamaican lamb spread, it's primarily a smoker above 40 or like 35 and older.
Yeah, because they have to be aware of the strain, and you had to have been alive and smoking back then.
And that they're also, a lot of those people are looking for like, 17 through say 22, 23. They do not want the 31 percenters, the 32s, because they're using it as like a come down after a hard day of work.
Yeah.
You give them a 30 percenter at 7 o'clock at night, and they're going to go to this.
You're passed out.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, the older ones are the ones that I draw to the most. But the good thing with only having 2 owners and no corporate board is we actually get to do a bunch of breeding in house now. So we're doing some of our own mashups with different strains. I'm bringing in some genetics I've been working on for a while, but
whoa, we're not going to gloss over that. Oh, no. Hit me with some of those. What are some of the exclusives that you can share? Anyone that you can drop? What's coming?
So unfortunately, in New Jersey, we do have to keep a lot of the people in the dark because a lot of the access is across the board, and but yeah, there's definitely some more ghost train hazy stuff from like the 2014s that'll be coming around. Some Pakistani Chitral Kush. Starting our own seed hunts on site as well, just so because like Jersey's very densely populated. We realized very quickly that it's basically 7 menus that people are shopping off of as cultivators. And they're all shopping off the same 7. So like there's multiple cultivators here that all have the same things.
Yeah, there's the opportunity to have greater genetic variations on a menu if you can put the time into it.
Exactly.
It's hard though, because then you're building, if you're doing strains no one's heard of, it's like selling products that people don't necessarily have heard of. Like you wouldn't sell some stuff that's over in this country over here if there's not a bunch of people here that know about it and want it, right?
You want just enough hype, not to where it's super boof. Like that's
that was over. That was one of the strains that hit the whole wave across the country, huh, Damian? That one got enough traction behind it. It was just, to me, super boof became, and don't hate me, fellas, don't hate me because you guys are growers. But as a customer, there's these eras, right? And I'm a 2012, 13, like 2013. I'm back in Seattle buying weed, like waiting in the parking lot in Seattle buying weed from medical dispensaries, right? Like 2013 to now, that's 12 years and some months. Cookies, 2013, burner. That's what I'm listening to in Seattle. It was cookies and sherb and mints, all that for 2-3 years. In Seattle, you could definitely, obviously, still get Blue Dream, and you could still get the other stuff that comes, the BC Buds and the grape whatever, and the throwback stuff from that era, 9 Pound Hammer, some of those older things. And I became a bud tender in 16, 17, same thing. Synexes and hazes and sour diesels and stuff that was from New York and New York people that brought it to Seattle, similar to the versus Colorado. Like you saw people leave all these places and go to these regions and start growing all their genetics. And but that whole time still cookies in the background, right? Runts comes out eventually. Runts, million runts. Now cookies and then have bred more. Now compound genetics and the blue lobster. I just like saying lobster like that. There's just so many fun flavors and cool things out there, right? What are you guys most hyped on in your lineup? What's that top tier Hamilton Farms banger? Do you guys first off, how many strains are you running?
Ooh.
In-house, I think we have 47 right now.
Okay, we won't obviously make you name all those, but hit me with I'm a basketball guy in this basketball season. Hit me with your starting 5. What's the top 5?
I mean, personally, we just got in the Cutta Gorilla Glue number 4.
Okay, one of the throwback ones. Here we go.
So when I got rated, I was growing exclusively GG4. I'd only run GG4 for like a year straight. And it was like my bread and butter. And this will be the first time I get a chance to grow it again. So I'm just excited more to bring her back. She was my favorite at the time and brings me some excitement. Also, one of my favorite just effect strains. Like, you know, we all talk about the flavors, you know, the Z's and the cookies and all that. Personally, I've been a medical patient for almost 18 years. I needed the effects. I'm looking for, does it make my anxiety lower? Does it make me have energy when I need it? Does it make me calm down when I want to be calm? So GG4 kind of for me has always hit those effects where like it makes me calm, but also I can stay focused.
I love that.
Yeah.
Classic strain.
That's one of my favorites too.
Nice. I know Erik's got some favorites in there.
Now,
starting 5, Erik. What you got? We got how many? Was that 2? Was that 1? What was that? What was that?
That was just the
I just gave 1.
All right, Erik. Come on, hit me with your starting 5.
Now, something I have to be honest about is I'm not the biggest flower smoker.
Okay.
However, we do hold like QC sessions just to, you know, make sure the quality's there and everything.
It's okay for you to report on behalf of the squad. It's okay.
So, I like the Panama Red. It's lower potency, doesn't get you too racy, but very alert still. Twister. So I tend to lean more on the sativa side of things.
That's wonderful.
So our Twister is an Matanuska Northern Lights 5 descendant. So just a little bit more. I know I keep saying all the nostalgia stuff, but
dude, you're good. Those are the ones that I came up with in Seattle, so I'm familiar with these.
It's the ones I grew up on, so like they just stick with me. So yeah, the Panama, the Twister. We've got something from Clearwater Genetics called Gargantua.
Okay.
Which is Gary Payton times Animal Mints.
Okay. So that fruity, creamy, runcy gelato family, sherb family, and then what's the Animal Mints adds like a heavy punch to it, like a heavy.
Yeah, I'd say even leaning a little bit gas. Like it's not heavy gas, but it's definitely muddling up the smell a little bit with the Gary.
Nice.
So
all right, that's 4. That's 4 total, guys. Last one.
All right, I'll throw in the it's the Yoda Nana. It's the new one we just released recently. Apples and Bananas by Baby Yoda. Again, a little bit lower potency, like 22%, something like that. The terp profile is awesome though. It's like very smooth, like applesauce air. Like it's just like breathing in like just the essence of applesauce. Like
applesauce air.
Yeah,
that is a first description I've ever
new term.
Write that one down, fellas. That was a great one. I love applesauce air, dude. Let's go. That sounds fire. That sounds absolutely fire. Now, fellas, I got a bunch of more questions for you, but I want to take a moment to again, shout out our sponsor. Big shout out to the big dog right here, Damian Solomon himself, man. Let me go ahead and do a quick little thing. Okay, shout out one time. Y'all, King Solomon Nutrients, y'all, essential two-part nutrient system, macro and micro for plant growth. These fertilizers are easy to make, suitable for various growth media types, and won't precipitate. They are designed to be functional and uncomplicated. You guys can reach out to ksolomonag.com, KSOLOMONAG.com. Reach out, tap in. My guy Damian. It's super easy. He's helped me grow a ton in terms of just education. A big reason why I'm able to go into so many grows and speak at a decent level with cultivators and understand what's going on without ever having grown myself is because of Damian's guidance and ability to communicate this high level agriculture, this crop steering, genetic, data driven. These are things, people I know nothing about because I just wasn't around to do that. And in the state where I came from, you can't grow at home legally in Washington, but you can buy all the weed you want in the world that's, in a bag. So, I really appreciate you guys sharing, your story and some of the struggles and some of the information about what it's like to grow there, some of the methodology. You did touch on earlier, and I wanted to highlight this. And I had a person talking with us the other day. Organic. Tough to grow organic in cannabis on the East Coast because of the testing requirements by the state, right? You were alluding to this earlier that it's a little bit tough to hit some of the products every single time, every single, over year, whatever it is, in terms of making sure that it's going to be a compliant end result product, right? And so talk to me a little bit about what it's like having to hit these standards in terms of heavy metals and just the other things that go into the testing requirements for a safe, compliant product there in New Jersey.
This is actually my first time having to go through this state testing process. So this last year for me has been a lot of fun to learn that. Erik obviously has several years of experience with it. When it comes to organics, one of the issues you would consider is the threshold for microbial activity.
Mm-hmm.
I believe our threshold here is 100,000 CFU per gram, which is relatively low, I believe, compared to other states, from what I understand.
We're actually pretty high.
Are we pretty high?
Because I think Colorado's down to
Are they at the 10?
Yeah, they're either 10 or below right now.
Okay. So
I know that New York and Mass and some of these things, it's pretty tough for these growers to get product through and into the system every single time. And with extracts particularly, it's also tough based on the residual solvents or things like that. Now, to add an additional layer on top of that, right, you have these testing requirements to be a compliant product. You have retailer demands for high THC and more terps, more THC, or lower prices no matter what, right? Like, it's always going to be this sick, disgusting balance of some version of that, right? And so my next question is this, fellas. What would you say has been the most important adjustment that you guys have made, whether it's macronutrients, micronutrients, the lighting, the post harvest, the flow? What would you say is the most important adjustment you've made throughout this transition to King Solomon Nutrients over the last time frame that you feel has really been the most beneficial to you guys?
So the one problem I would say with King Solomon Nutrients is that when we started crop steering with them, our yields just went crazy. So it ended up throwing off our environmentals in the room because we were growing so much mass inside of the room that our DHUs couldn't even keep up. So we had to make some more adjustments from there, dial in our VPD a little bit better, plant sizing going into the rooms. But for example, we started out at 170 pounds for our first harvest. Second harvest was 220.
Wow.
We've been upwards towards 300 plus of recent. So just by some minor adjustments.
That would be a great problem to have had, but
it's a luxury.
Yeah, a really luxurious problem to all of a sudden run into, but also it did create upwards and downwards chain effects. And that's where I wanted to ask, this is why I asked that question is, people grow and they stay in their lane. They use the bumpers from a bowling alley. They use the bumpers. They grow. They bowl a perfect game. They sell the weed for the price they get. It's safe, right? It's Gorilla Glue for a year and a half, right? It's safe because that's the problem. Because you can't high risk. You can't risk more than what you know you're going to get out of it. You got to make it consistent every time. And now you're talking licensed, legal retailers. No reordering. You lose shelf space. It's a whole different game now, right? And so with you guys, you have these upwards and these upstream and downstream impacts. What was the next step from there that you said you had to make different changes? You had to make upwards, up, down, upstream and downstream changes. What were some of those? And were you able to maintain the same quality with this explosion in yield?
I mean, I'd say that is the issue, right? When you have more production than planned, all of the designs that were spec'd for a certain amount of material are no longer relevant to reality. So some of our alterations we had to make was creating more dry space by installing a bunch of wires across the top of our dry room just to hang plants up higher and use our vertical space. So, adapting to the increase in material helped us save a lot of the material. Our very first round, we overpacked and did lose some just to, moisture not being released in certain areas. So going through processes to
that
make
much product up in that air in that empty vertical space, right? We have to figure out all of those issues still with airflow and temperature and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So one of the big things for us was figuring out how to get the dry process down correctly, and then also speeding up post-harvest in general. Our very first harvest took us, I think, almost 60 days to get from chop to package. And most recently, we got down to 21 days, I believe. So really just getting that process dialed in to be able to get product to market fresher was a huge part of it as well. So
huge.
Having extra material, we didn't necessarily have the resources to process it as quickly as we had hoped for.
Yeah.
So making those adjustments. So I guess that being said, more material doesn't always mean it's better because we did have to make sacrifices to get some of it to market. And also we just not everything made it to market because it wasn't to the quality that we had expected.
Would you say that even on that first run, which technically was a gamble, right? It's a gamble to have done that. Was it still a net positive on all of that?
Still net positive. We did have to upstaff a lot more than we had planned on to just handle the extra workload that we were dealing with. We made projections based on a certain yield number, and then getting double that number just creates more labor for production.
It was definitely a series of probably unforeseen challenges that you had to figure out at a high level in real time, right? Very, very tough. But the cool part is now we figure out that new model and opportunity to maximize that. I feel like within cannabis, there's wholesaling, then there's products, then there's brands that are always making moves and trying to partner, and then there's all these different other SKUs that have been created. Sounds like you guys are going to be making some big moves with some other things over time. Is just my assumption with all that new material at the end of the day. Because when you guys are good growers and you got good genetics and you got all the other, I won't say bells and whistles from it's not valid standpoint, but when you have the different tools, the Arroyo, right, the technology to help you guys do these different things. When you have the tools, you guys are going to grow great weed, and I'm super excited to hear and see what that looks like in the future. I tried one of the products from Fire and Oak there in New Jersey, and I was impressed that they said it was one of the best, man. Absolutely incredible. Now, fellas, I want to get you guys out of here soon. I want to talk a little bit about Jersey real quick. We talked about the weather and some other stuff, but we need to talk about the industry real quick. When you guys think about the New Jersey industry, when you guys think about the retailers and the situation out there, what are some of your favorite things about the industry? Let's be positive. It's easy to pick apart the negative.
I'd say the state's very passionate. Like there is a lot of passion when it surrounds cannabis, even if it is to a fault. People are just very, very willing to tell you their thoughts. But
still that traditional Northeast Coast honesty.
Yes, which I mean, I'm a huge fan of because like if you don't let me know. Like I want to hear why. I want to hear what could be better about it. So I'd say, yeah, very, very passionate. They want their weed very fresh. So where like when we were in Colorado, if I had given someone a bag at the consistency that people were asking for it in New Jersey, they would have probably yelled at me.
Wow.
And just because Colorado it's just a drier climate, the weed was naturally a little bit drier. But something else we're realizing is it's the freshness, the newness, like what's new to the market. Seems to be a huge following on whatever is the next thing.
Yeah. Marketing here is interesting. It's all prepackaged, right? So, branding is the Hamilton Farms, right? We have to brand Hamilton Farms to be able to present to the market. Unfortunately, there's no way for us to really showcase the flower itself, other than some dispensaries have done like bud bars where you can see like a glass jar and get a little button where you push for smell. Obviously, you can look at some photos.
This is your guys' Instagram. I didn't see this earlier because I just showed those videos, but
right.
Yeah, I mean, again, very limited because a lot of companies do this and they're not able to get it to stay up. You guys have beautiful images though. Are these your guys' current strains?
That's actually all from our first harvest. We haven't done any recent photo shoots, which we're about to move on here shortly. We need.
These look great, and they look. What's even better is that those sativas, Erik, this monkey haze. I mean, look at those. Those are pure as they can be. You can tell such by the beautiful. And look at the trichomes, massive. This crazy one here has like those rich colors. It looks like one of those like rainbow sherb type of strains on colors. Wet Betty, lamb's bread. Look at that lamb's bread. You guys are out here getting it, man.
Well, and
I want to shout out on that note too. I want to shout out Dan Riebling as well because I know you guys are using a lot of his genetics and he does good work breeding as well.
Who was that again?
Dan Riebling.
I believe Stray Bioscience is his handle.
Yeah, Stray Biosciences.
Yep.
Nice.
Yep. So all of our original genetics, our entire first catalog of 25, I believe, all came through Dan. He was able to help us select a set of cultivars that were commercially viable in a 2-tier system, and get them out here to New Jersey for us. So it was a great starting point. Obviously, as any cultivar does, we have to expand into other menus. But no, he was an integral part of us getting off the ground here.
I love that. Fellas, I want to circle back to the starting 5, but this time we're going to do it about retailers. Who do you guys remember the first 5 retailers that picked you guys up?
Ooh. So we did in the very beginning try to stick with the most, like-minded local mom and pop owned dispensary fronts. I remember Jersey Meds being one of them, Honey Grove being another, Baked by the River, Hashery.
Woo!
Dank Poet.
Dank Poet. Big shout out to Dank Poet as well, man. Fire, fellas. I appreciate you guys sharing this information, man. It was really a pleasure getting to learn, getting to see a little bit of the growth through their Instagram, with you guys live talking about it, seeing some of the original flower there a minute ago, learning your guys' methods and hearing your guys' stories about, growing in multiple houses and moving to Colorado, both of you guys, and really just putting all the time and energy into being the best that you guys can be to chase your passion and find a space. No matter what space it is, find a space and be a part of this, right? We're all a part of these movements with, green, whether it was the original Green Rush for both of you guys, right? I was just a patient 2013 in Seattle, buying weed, a lot of cookie strains, a lot of Dutch Treat. That was my original favorite strain back in the day. It was phenomenal. It was an era. Damian, you've been such a powerful part of my journey with respect to my region these last few years since I've been in California, helping me get connected to these different breeders. We're doing a party coming up next month, March 18th.
Oh yeah, Hall of Flowers, baby.
Yes, sir. We got Hall of Flowers coming up here in California, and watching you go to and visit all these different grows and facilities across the country, and just talk and share the knowledge. It's just incredibly helpful. And so again, to anybody watching, ksolomonag.com. Go to the website, check it out. We have more King Solomon Nutrients podcast coming. We got Erik down below. We got Anthony over there in the Hamilton Farms hat to Erik's left. Got Damian in the corner, and I'm Joey J. Ping, everybody. Make sure you guys tap in. Fellas, before we get out of here, the last thing, I usually like to get people have the floor, share something they want to talk about. I encourage you guys to share about anything you guys have going on, any news you want to share. This is the RMR exclusive opportunity if you want to make it one. But for the most part, this is your time. Do your thing.
Well, we've already started breeding some genetics, and actually, right before we started this, we just brought tissue culture on site.
Let's go. RMR exclusive. Tissue
Excellent.
culture in the building. Let's run it. Okay.
As of today.
I love it, fellas. Thank you so much. Fellas, the website, I have it right here. I'm going to read it out. HamiltonFarms.com. Hamilton spelled the way it should be. Farms.com after that, folks. Make sure you guys tap in. I love you guys. This was episode 1 of the King Solomon Nutrients podcast, brought to you guys by King Solomon Nutrients.